Hey, Ryan Thomas with EastWest here, and today we're going to be talking about how I used DrumX to create this EDM track. So we'll cover how I made the beats. We are going to, of course, talk about some of the compositional elements and the synth programming. We're going to cover some of the sound design and then, of course, some of the processing. Now, in this intro, we don't have much yet in the way of drum content. So we've got this beautiful bass synth. This is from Iconic. Actually, most of the synths in this piece are from Iconic. And this one is just massive. I mean, it just fits so well into that mix, very natural. And we've got the escape lead. It's just edgy, it's really intense. And then in the polysynths and pads, we've got a couple of things here. You've got the plucked in space, pluck synth, and then the avatar pad. Now this I actually made using some patches from 3 different libraries. You've got a patch from Ghostwriter, one from Forbidden Planet, and then actually one from the dark side. So let's hear these. So just a massive sound there. And that little reverse effect that you hear at the beginning is literally just a note from Plucked in Space that I bounced out and then reversed. And then of course I shortened it. So pretty simple stuff there. But it's little tricks like that that can kind of make a sound. And then finally in the sound effects, we've got the low watery whoosh. And then later on, you're gonna hear this riser. Now, you can actually download all of the sound design effects that I'm using in this piece in the link that you'll find in the video description. But just know that we are going to be talking about these more in the future as they are part of a bigger picture. And then you do have a little bit of drum content here. I've just got this clap and the snare going into the drop here. And you can hear that really beautiful gated reverb on both the clap and the snare. It's such a nice reverb in Opus. So let's go ahead and hear this whole intro. And then in this next part, we are kind of dropping the beat. So I am using the DR55 for the kick, and it's just such a meaty kick. And then we're pairing that with the dead bass. This is actually kind of a multi-patch combo that I made. This has the dead bass and the bright bass in it. Now, of course, you need a ton of sidechain compression in a piece like this. So I basically have all of my synths routed to this bus, and the kick is going to be triggering this compressor. So I think that's actually it for the beginning of this section. Let's go ahead and skip forward to bar 15. So here we're just introducing the Peaches and Cream. Again, this is just from Iconic, really nice patch. And then you do have the Live Mouse Bass Distorted. And that's just kind of a texture that's underneath everything. You feel it a little bit more than you actually hear it. And then we are bringing in the full drum kit here at measure 15. You can see all the selections that I'm making here. This is just the all kits patch, so you can select from all the different drums in DrumX. Now, one of the more unique and powerful features of DrumX is just how easy it is to program in your own grooves. So I played this line in the old-fashioned way, but let's say that I wanted to save it for use in other projects. Yeah, I could export the MIDI and then import it into my other projects, but that's kind of clunky. So I can just hit the record button in DrumX, and then I can just start playing it. Okay, and now when I mute the MIDI and I play this sequence again, now you'll notice that the original had a little bit of a swing to that tom fill. So I can go into DrumX and I can just increase the swing by 100%, and now. Now, right now, I have the kick on a separate track because I need that kick isolated in order to trigger the sidechain compression the way that I want it to be triggered. But let's say that I wanted to add a kick to this sequence. All you have to do is just click on the individual pads here, and I'm gonna go ahead and speed this part up. Okay, and now here's what we have, and I'm gonna go ahead and solo this. So there's really a number of ways that you can program these. You can do it manually. You can use your own MIDI to program these grooves, or you can do a little bit of a combination of both, which is what I just did. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and clear this. We're gonna go back to the MIDI, and let's go ahead and skip to measure 19. This is where we're bringing in the charger patch, and this is just kind of helping us build into this next drop. And then at measure 23, we're adding bubble bath. This is just another pad. Again, this is kind of helping us build. Now in this next part, we're gonna let things breathe a little bit. We're gonna cut drums and just have a bass synth and a pad. So we're using Slap Happy from Iconic, and then Afterglow from Forbidden Planet, and it's just an absolutely massive sound. We're bringing in a lead here. I mean, just a huge sound from only 2 patches. And then in the second half, you have the drums coming in with this really simple pattern here. And then you've got the escape lead coming back in. Now, one thing I need to point out is that we do have this reverse clap here. And again, that's just created by bouncing out that clap, reversing it, and placing it appropriately. So let's go ahead and just hear this second half of this phrase. All right, and then in this next phrase, we're bringing back in that bass line from the beginning, but we are also adding this really fat pluck poly synth. This is the Nonstop Poly 2, and this is I love this one. I use this one a ton. I mean, it's just got that sound. So let's go ahead and just kind of hear this. Now in this part, I'm bringing in one of the grooves from DrumX. This is one of the presets that was made by Jimmy Jam. And I just loaded it up, and then you can drag the groove directly into your digital audio workstation. And I needed to do that because I needed to delete the kick, and I wanted to play with some of the other parameters here. So it just makes the workflow really fast, and I didn't have to spend a bunch of time sequencing the drums here. So let's go ahead and hear this part. right, now here again, we are going to cut the drums and kind of let things breathe a little bit. So we just have the live mouse bass. This is actually new for this section. Just kind of nice and fat and round, but a little bit more on the subtle side. And then we're bringing back the avatar pad. I mean, just such a huge sound. And then you've got the Android Seeker, for which I went ahead and enabled the arpeggiator on, and it just sounds so cool in this part. And you can see how I'm using the filter in Forbidden Planet to kind of give this an ebb and a flow and almost basically give it dynamics. So let's go ahead and skip to measure 74 here. And I just want to point out that transition was made again by reversing one of the plucked in space hits. And then I'm actually automating some tremolo here. So it's just the little things that can really make a transition like that. All right, and then we're back into this main groove. Nothing new here. Now at measure 90, we are bringing in the escape lead and a new lead that we haven't heard before. This is the Live Mouse Poly Distorted. This is such a cool lead. I mean, that is just such a huge fat sound. And I'm doing something with some automation to get this really big fat buildup. And it's something a little bit different, so I figured I would go ahead and show you that. I'm actually using automation to increase the send amount to an auxiliary channel that has some distortion on it. And I am doing that in the escape lead as well as the bubble bath pad. So let's actually just solo these two elements and hear them by themselves. And you can see I'm kind of playing with the pitch bend on that pad just to kind of give us a little bit of tension here in this part. So let's go ahead and hear how this sounds in context. And then for this last hit, I am just using the escape lead, the Live Mouse Poly Distorted lead, as well as kind of a Bram effect. I'm gonna go ahead and solo that for you. And then here it is in context. So let's go ahead and hear the whole piece so you can see how this is all fitting together. So that is DrumX in a more modern EDM context. But what I love about it is just how versatile it is. You can use it for this, or you can use it for more retro style tracks. It's very authentic, and it's incredibly flexible with all the different controls, all of the effects, and you have these incredible presets that are really inspiring. I used one of them to help write this piece, as you saw. So in any case, you can buy DrumX on our website, or it's also part of the Composer Cloud Plus subscription. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you got something out of it. And as always, if you liked it, drop a comment, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any future content. That's all for now. Thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.